So I'm the warm-up act.
Not at all.
And I'm now going to hand over to my good friend Michael, and I'm going to listen. Sit here and listen. Michael Reccia.
I once went to a Ken Dodd event, and we were lucky. We escaped at half time, despite him saying that there were guard dogs and security people at every door. I think he went on for about 5 hours. So I'm not going to subject you to such a long diatribe.
You got your money's worth, though, didn't you?
Well, we did, yes. But we had to sneak out. They were checking. Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yeah, one of the old school comedians. Yeah. I love books. Ever since I was a little boy, I found solace in books. And I was a very peculiar little boy in that I was psychic and I didn't understand that. And I thought I was mad because I didn't fit in with anyone else. And so I would go to my room, close the door, and take solace in my books. And I love the English language, and I love words. What I don't love is the way that words of late, perhaps over the last decade or so, have been contracted, shortened, as though we don't have time to spend on words. We don't have time to appreciate words because we have to move on to the next shiny object, the next bauble that will entertain us for a couple of seconds. And so I grew up with medicines and medications, not meds. I grew up with tablets and not tabs. I grew up with applications and not apps. And if something was coming up on the TV or in a film, it was known as a trailer, not a trail. We're guilty of this even here at the sanctuary. And I've just done it now because the sanctuary is not the full name of this place. It is the sanctuary of healing. And that third word of healing is extremely important in all that we do because it lies at the core of the Joseph Communications. It lies at the core of the weekly healing sessions that are held here, and it particularly lies at the core of the World Meditation Alliance meetings. And I think you can distill what we do here into 3 types of healing: personal healing, global healing, and divine angelic healing. And I'd like to touch on those 3 types of healing, beginning naturally with personal healing. And in order to bring you into the concept of personal healing, I'll start with an anecdote. In that many decades ago, I think there were dinosaurs roaming outside at the time, certainly pterodactyls in the air, I joined, as a developing medium, a healing class on Friday nights at a local spiritualist church. And we would invite people to come in with their various symptoms to sit in front of us, and we would put our hands on their shoulders. And in my case, I would wait for someone to talk to me from higher vibrations and tell me where to put my hands, with permission of the person involved, of course. Or we would link to divine energy and just turn ourselves over and allow that energy to flow through us to heal the person. And there's one particular gentleman amongst the bunch of healers who was completely averse to soap and water. And even if you were at the other end of the room and had your eyes closed and he came in late, you didn't need to be psychic to know that he was there. But this particular gentleman had a particular mission in that he would sit week in and week out with a particular lady who he'd seen had a lump at the back of her neck, just below the line of her cardigan. And he would move his hands from her shoulders onto this lump, and he would pour all the light, all the love, all the energy that he could into that lump. Week in, week out. Didn't work. And it was only a few weeks later that he discovered a very valuable healing lesson. No matter how powerful you are as a healer, no matter how greatly you are linked into the divine and can channel divine energy, there is absolutely no way in this world that you can ever heal a Marks and Spencer's label. On a more serious note with personal healing, my wonderful mentor, Joan, my spiritual teacher, who's now on the higher side of life but occasionally drops in to see us, had a unique relationship with her local GP, with her doctor. In that, if something was worrying her, if she had symptoms, she would go to the doctor and say, "Tell me what it is. I don't want drugs. I don't want treatment. I don't want surgery. You tell me what it is, and I will take it away. I will meditate on it. I'll link into God, and I'll take care of it." And he'd been treating Joan for about 20 years and knew that he couldn't get anywhere except in the later stages of her life when her energy dipped. And that all he was required to do was to tell her what was wrong. So, for example, she developed angina. And he said, "You have angina." "Fine, that's fine. No tablets, no treatment. I'm going home now." And she would sit and meditate on that illness, bring light into the area that was affected, and cure it. Not only that, but she had a reputation in the local area for being able to help people who were sick. And so her phone would often ring, and somebody would say, for example, "Joan, I've got a lump in my arm. I think it's cancer. I don't know what to do." And she'd say, "Just calm down. Come over and we'll sort it out." And so the person in question would come over and sit with Joan, and Joan would put her hand over the lump, and together they would pray. And they would pray that lump away. And very often, on the very same day, that lump would disappear. When I first started sitting with Joan, and I sat with her every Sunday, because I was working at the time, every Sunday for 7 years to develop as a medium, she introduced the concept, and the soul group members that I linked to introduced the concept of illness being a miscommunication or a lack of communication between the energies that feed us as the spiritual beings that we really are and our physical being. And at first this seemed a very curious concept, but as it was explained to me over the weeks, it made more and more sense, to the point where I thought I'll try it out for myself. And I worked at the time for an advertising agency, and everyone in the agency, with the exception of myself, came down with a bad case of the flu, very bad case of the flu. They were sniffling and zombieing around and feeling very sorry for themselves. And I reached for the phone one morning to ring a client, and this was in the days when a phone was something that was on a desk and not in your pocket. And my secretary said, "No, Michael, don't touch that. I've been using that phone. You'll get what I've got." And something clicked, and I thought, no, I won't. And so I picked up the phone, and I held the receiver to my ear and the mouthpiece to my mouth, and I spoke to the client, and subsequently used that phone over several more days. I was the only person in that agency that didn't get that virus. Years later, when I was working for as a medium in the early days, I went down to Bishop Stortford. I was invited to work with a leading medium at the time, who shall remain nameless, for a week to give readings, but also to give talks, lectures. And the gentleman in question attacked verbally both myself and another medium that was down there because he disagreed with something that I'd said that I knew, because of connections with the soul group, to be absolutely correct. And I was crestfallen, so much so that people were coming up to me in the courtyard and saying, "We're so sorry you said that. We're so sorry, that's terrible, that's not what we think. But the result was I came back feeling that what I was supposed to do wasn't reaching anyone. That my mission, which was to expand spiritual knowledge, with the spiritual knowledge I was being given, wasn't being taken up by people. And I felt as I came back, I drove back, it was about a 5-hour drive, felt that the weight of the world was on my shoulders. The following morning, I sneezed, fell on the floor, and ruptured a disc in my back. So what to do? There was an osteopath 2 streets up from where I lived, and I hobbled to the osteopath. It took me half an hour to cover 2 short streets. And he got me walking. It was still painful, but I was walking. And twice a week, I would visit this gentleman, very accomplished gentleman, very good osteopath. But after a few weeks, he said to me, look, we're not winning. You're going to have to see a doctor. And I thought, oh, that's not a route I want to take. I don't want traction. I don't want surgery. I don't want tablets. And I said, look, give me a week. I will take that situation back with me. I will meditate on it. And if we haven't improved in a week, I'll go and see a doctor. So I came back home, and twice a day, I took myself into a deep meditation, put light into the affected area, affirmed that God had healed that area. And after a week, I went back to the osteopath, and he said, well, we are winning now. It's getting better. What are you doing? Are you masking the pain? And I said, no. I said, meditation is not about masking the pain. It's not a psychic painkiller. I am transforming the situation by visualizing it in a different way. And within a few weeks, I was completely cured. And I thanked the osteopath for his work on my back. And he said, well, thank you, because I may not agree with you, but you've given me something new to add to my skill set, and I will think about it. I am not suggesting for a moment that any of us in here should not go the medical route. What I am suggesting is that there is a parallel track we can take. And either by not choosing to go the medical route or choosing a medical route and this parallel track, we can aid the process of healing. We can visualize what is wrong and put it right. We can infuse light into our bodies. We can re-establish the balance between our physical bodies and our spiritual bodies and our angelic bodies. Personal healing. But also, I'd like to suggest that just as this is a healing center, the sanctuary of healing, each of you in here today can act as a healing center. And what I mean by that is not that you have to lay hands on anyone, but that when someone asks you what your opinion is on anything, or what your opinion is, your philosophy is on life, be brave enough to have the courage of your convictions. Be brave enough not to mumble something, but to say, well, I believe in God. I believe I'm a spirit. I believe I'm an angelic being. I believe in an afterlife. I believe this is just one stage in an infinite journey. And in doing that, you'll win some friends and you'll lose some friends. But, even with the friends that you lose, you will have given them at some point in their future, when they think back as to what you've said, the opportunity to set their feet on the spiritual path. You will have opened a chink through which light will eventually shine. Not only that, but as a healing center, each of you, you will find that you attract people who, perhaps in a bus stop, or perhaps they'll knock on your door and say, I've got this problem. This is happening to me. That's happening to me. I've got this ache, this pain, this situation in my life. And you'll know what to say. And they will come to you because you are there as a healing center. You are radiating out light. Wonderful thing for you to be able to do. What about global healing? Oh boy, we're talking about the news. Good grief, the world is sick. sick. Now, why is it sick? It is sick because society has chosen over the last few decades to divorce us, to take us away from the God that we are a part of. To say, there isn't a God. To say, there's no point in looking for anything beyond what you can see and feel and hear and taste and touch. Nothing else. If you want solutions to your problems, come to us. Everything is material. So if a problem is material, its solution is material. And little by little, bit by bit, we have banished the God that we are a part of. So society is banishing what it is. We have become a house divided against itself. And as we're seeing, a house divided against itself cannot stand. We are fed by divine energy. If we cut off that energy consciously through free will, then we are putting a barrier up between ourselves and what we are and what sustains us and what guides us and what uplifts us. So we have to restore that balance. This earth is not what it appears to be. It appears to be a rock that is orbiting in the gravity well of a sun. That's a very dense view of the earth. The earth is at core what all the planets are at core. Angelic playgrounds. Angelic spheres of experience. They are a reflection of God. God, as Joseph says, it can be represented by the dot within the circle. The center that gives out energy to everything that is contained within the greater circle. And each planet is created by us. And people will say, oof, heresy. God created the planets. Well, of course. If I create something now, stick something together, paint it, God has made it because I'm part of God and so are you. So the planet is an angelic playground. Originally, this earth was created so that we can visit it in physical form and undergo a series of experiences that add to our understanding of creation, that make us more than we were before we visited here, that allow us to take back the sum of those experiences to the Godhead and to the angelic host and say, look what we've done. We've learnt this. What do you think of this? In free will, you can agree with it or disagree with it, but it's here. This is my experience. And if you want to, you can share it. You can actually go through the experience with me. You can tune into my life, plug into it, and then unplug afterwards, and you'll see what I saw and draw your own conclusions. But the experience here wasn't meant to be one of despair and misery and upset and pain. It was supposed to be a joyous experience. And it was supposed to be an experience that was traveled through in full knowledge that we are part of God. In full knowledge that we are angelic beings clothed in flesh for a short time in order to learn. And we lost all that because of the fall, explained in great detail in Joseph's book. Also, in the normal course of things, from that dot within the circle emanates outwards specific energies at specific times. Energies that feed the creations, the planets of the angelic host, and bring to being certain circumstances which, if travelled through correctly, enhance the beings on those planets. So certain positive, loving vibrations and indications of what to do next reach us normally, if we were on another planet, for example, from the dot within the circle on a regular basis. They still reach this planet, can't go anywhere. They can't go anywhere, they're not appreciated, they're not acted upon, because their frequency is higher, because of the density of this place, than the frequency of us living here. Which brings us on to the third type of healing, which is divine and angelic healing. What to do? How do we distribute the correct vibrations, the vibrations that can put things right, into situations where things are obviously wrong? We alter the frequency. That's the work of the World Meditation Alliance. For each member of the World Meditation Alliance to act as a conduit for those energies, to gently step them down and then to distribute them, to make them by stealth available to the whole earth. Because you need a human interface at this time in order for those energies to go out in a way that they can be appreciated, acted upon, recognized, and in a way that they can transform the earth. So, members of the World Meditation Alliance, during those meditative times, act as empty vessels, not making any noise. Empty vessels that allow higher vibrations through their free will to enter into their bodies and their psyche and their spirits, which are then translated outwards, radiated outwards, like the radiations from the dot within the circle, across the world. And with some people, those vibrations will make a difference in a specific way. With other people who are so densely connected to this world, they will nibble away at that outer crust so that there comes a day for them too, when they will begin to remember who they are. And that's healing. So you sit with the World Meditation Alliance, which is absolutely wonderful. But there is a bonus for each of you in doing that. And I don't mean the bonus information that we get from the Persian gentleman. The bonus is that you act as a healing center for those higher vibrational energies all the time. When you're shopping in Asda, when you're parking the car, when you're asleep, when you're watching the television. Because you have agreed on a spiritual level to act as a conduit for higher energies. So what I'd like you to take away this evening is not a memory of this place, but a realization that you are a part of this place. That the feeling of family that you get today is not just for today, it's forever. And that your potency, when you are sitting as a member of the World Meditation Alliance, is equally strong when you are not connected to one of the meditation sessions, in the times between the meditation session. And that because of your willingness to act as a conduit, you act as a conduit always, always. So, you are a healing center, each of you. You are a healing center for individuals who will come to you. You are a healing center for those you pray for and hold in light. And you are a healing center via the World Meditation Alliance for the whole world. Now, these are challenging times, aren't they? Challenging times. As Tony says, don't look at the news, because if you look at the news, you want to shut yourself away and never come out. But each of you is needed now more than ever before. So I'd like to leave you, when I leave you at after lunch, with a thought to take home. I am a spirit. I am part of God. I am doing God's work. I am doing angelic work. And I'm doing that. I don't have to look for it. It will look for me. I think I've come to the end of what I wanted to say today, but I'd like to, at this point, invite any questions that you might have, and God willing, I'll be able to respond to those.
Well, I was wondering how I could connect with that, because it kind of, I mean, that's closer than you are to me right now.
Well, it doesn't have to be conscious connection. In other words, you don't have to see somebody as I see them. I've got that gift or curse, whichever way you want to look at it, for a very specific reason. The way to connect is acceptance that you have connected. To become quiet, peaceful, then say, I could do with some input for this, please. What do you say? And also remember that you are in instant rapport with your higher self. So your higher self is thinner than a molecule away. Your higher self is part of you, and it's just a matter of flipping that switch and saying, right, I'm now in a state of mind where I'm connected to higher wisdom, to the wisdom that I've accrued over many lifetimes. And I have a solution to this problem, I have a solution to this question. I just need to be confident enough that I'm receiving it. Now, sometimes in the early stages of meditation or becoming still, people say, well, I've not got anything. Don't expect it then. Expect it to happen in the hours that follow. You might get it during your meditation, your quiet time, but expect it to follow during the hours after you've asked. And expect the unexpected. I think, as I've said in here before, you'll turn on the telly and think, my goodness, that's an answer to my question. How can that be part of a film and it's directly speaking to me? Or you'll talk to somebody on the street and they'll say something that sparks off the answer to whatever you're seeking. And you'll be given assurance that someone has been with you. I can only assure you from my point of view that whenever, and Tony will back this up, I hope, that whenever we sit, it is instant. That connection with higher wisdom and with spiritual beings is instant. It is always there, just waiting to be accessed. Does that answer your question?
It
doesn't. You look puzzled.
Can I just add a little bit to that? Because I always say it's about spotting the miracle. And we go through life, things happen, you get a connection, they do what you ask them to do, in a way, and then we don't spot it. And for those people in the room last Friday, there was a lovely story by John. Do you remember John? He had an instant response. He came to the sanctuary after 10 years of arthritis, really bad pains and everything. And he got better instantly. So that's an obvious one, yeah? But then there's not so obvious wow moments where you look back and you think, wow, I actually got the answer to that. I know that they're communicating. It's a kind of trust, if you like. We cannot be like Michael. Michael gets instant answers.
Like your lucky stars, you can't.
Well, I know there's a downside to that as well. But it is about trusting and spotting it when you do get the answer. Like you said, the answer always comes. But it is spotting it. And the thing is, once you do it, your mind gets it. I talk about the mind. And the mind starts pointing you more and more into a positive direction and picking up those positive vibrations which are in answer to what you've been asking. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Have we answered your question? Because you looked a bit puzzled. There was like something else that you wanted to ask.
I was just wondering how to change the perspective a little to get that closeness, but you've answered that.
And it's always through stillness. This world is so fast. As I've been talking about the abbreviation of words, try and watch something on YouTube. And you'll just be into something, and there'll be an ad. And then there's another ad. And then they interrupt you again with another ad, and another ad. And there's this loud, jarring music. There's this horrible voiceover. We are being fed all this information all the time, but it's only on a material level. We have to flip the switch. And we flip the switch by turning off the mobile phone, turning off the television, turning off the radio, and sitting in our favourite armchair and saying, I'm being quiet now. Go away, world, for a few minutes and allow me to communicate with higher vibrations and with my higher self and with the divine. And all those connections are not out here, they're in here. So you've got to, from being outward looking into this illusion, you have to be inward looking. And there you find truth and inspiration and guidance.
Michael, I've got to correct you.
Oh.
It's not ad, it's advert.
Oh my goodness. Actually, it's advertisement too.
Advertisement.
Advertisement.
Can I ask a question about, I sent in the Joseph book on what they call it, about this, where I mentioned talking about the sacred geometry.
Yeah.
I just wanted to expand on it if you can.
Yes. There was a gentleman came to one of the public trance demonstrations that we held many moons ago.
Dennis.
This is Dennis.
Was it Dennis? And his idea of sacred geometry was a coat hanger with some tinsel on it that he hung outside a window. And he asked Joseph about sacred geometry. And Joseph said, look, in its greatest sense, you're not ready for it. You can't use it to positive advantage. And so it is with, you have ideas as to what sacred geometry is, but it's far more than you think it is. And it applies to angelic creation rather than a human interpretation of angelic creation. So leave it where it is until you're ready for it.
It is a distraction at the moment, isn't it?
Well, it is. There are so many distractions.
You said about the ancients, you could use it though.
Yes. Yeah.
But they were more spiritual.
They were. Yeah.
You're not going to get the secret because we can't be trusted with it. It's bad enough that we split the atom and
Imagine if we had that power of sacred geometry. And as Joseph says, I used it on a Facebook post this morning, funnily enough, there have been at least 2 civilizations that he can gain access to in the records, the Akashic records, that have disappeared, including his. And that happened with people, with souls playing God and thinking, we can do this. And this is what's happening now. Look at artificial intelligence. Let's create an artificial human being simply because we can. Let's graft this onto a human being. Let's take this away from a human being. We are perfection. We are angelic. Why would you want to alter perfection? If we had sacred geometry, think of the damage we'd do at the minute. You know, and it is a greater thing. It is part of angelic creation. It is used by angels in order to create planets, in order to create universes, plural.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That power is not for us at the minute. We need to sort ourselves out first, don't we?
I think it's a distraction, like you said.
Yes, and there are so many distractions. Gentleman over there.
Just picking up on the theme of connections, during our meditations, I think we talk about the tree of life and the angelic host. Could you just elaborate on the relationship between
Good question.
those two?
You use the tree of life, don't you, John?
We do, and it's what came through to us. I tell you how I see it. The tree of life, the sanctuary's got 2 friends, Caroline and Gary Hoare, and Caroline Hoare and Gary Billcliffe, and they've written books on dowsing. They've dowsed lines around England, these power lines. And in the front of his book, he describes, I'm madly trying to think of the word he used, but it's basically the tree of life connects heaven and earth. Okay, it's a symbol, and the tree of life can be a stone, an emblem stone or whatever, but it's that joins it together. We've got a book upstairs called The Power of Centers, and the first page you go in is the Tree of Life. But also the Kabbalah was based around the Tree of Life, which is it's the connection. It's the connection between heaven and earth. That's the quick answer.
I'd like to pick up on that because you mentioned a stone. Without giving anything away, we have had experience of this personally. I'm not going to give away a location in any way because the stone that we're talking about is sacred and is ancient. But I remember a few years ago walking past this stone, and we were commenting on the surroundings, and I said to Jane, that stone just scanned me. It looked like something from Star Trek. There was a beam came out from the top of this stone, went up and down my body, and then disappeared. And I said, I think I'm going to have to approach this natural stone. Well, it wasn't a natural stone, it's a carved stone, but it, of course, originally it was natural. And I approached it and I asked permission to touch it. And the stone said, yes, it's okay. And the stone related that it was the center of a community many, many, many years ago. And that people would bring, they used it as a connection between heaven and earth, that it was linked to other stones across the world, and that that network could be accessed by those people. And we think that we're advanced, but they could access wisdom via those other stones at other points around the globe. And women would bring babies to it for healing. The old would go to it for a renewal of energy. And that stone had lain dormant for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years.
Millennia.
And we went back to talk to it, didn't we? Which we must do again if we ever get the opportunity to do so. But my point is that there are... Sentience was a word that Tony used very well this morning. The stone was sentient. And the stone had an equal, if not greater, intelligence than we have. And that we've forgotten so much in our arrogance that we are advanced and we need our technology. But the whole earth is alive. And we need to, in a way, devolve to a certain extent so that we can put ourselves back in touch with those aspects of creation here that know far more about creation than we do. Now, we've never spoken about that in a public place before, have we? But we are entrusted with the location of this stone, and we're entrusted not to reveal where it is. But we feel sorry for it, because its purpose, its sentience is still there, and its purpose can't be fulfilled at the moment, because it's never called upon. Sad story. Oh yes, angelic host. You asked about the tree of life and the angelic host.
The relationship
Between the two. Well, I don't use the tree of life, that's Tony's prerogative, but I do know about the angelic host, in that there's no difference between the angelic host and us except in the way that we think. We are angels, each of us. I've seen angels. I mean, I'm looking at angels now, but I've seen angels in their true form over the years, on occasion. And it is a humbling experience, because standing in front of you is this giant being with a voice that is gentle and yet so powerful at the same time that you feel that you must turn away. There is a degree of light coming from that being that is not blinding, but you've got to turn away from that too. And there is power emanating as though you can see it spreading out from that being. We are those beings, but we've encased ourselves in heavy matter, and we have turned away from what we are due to that memory that goes back to the time of the fall. So that for me, there is no difference between the angelic host and us except in perception. But those angels I've seen, the way they are is the way we are and the way we will be again once we get out of this mess. Does that answer the question? Thank you.
One more question.
One more question.
There's
Hi.
a soul group to which you link in with. Is there just the one soul group that is looking after the earth, or the more?
That is an excellent question. It's an excellent question. Our focus has been quite naturally on Joseph and his soul group, because they're the ones that made contact. And they said that in order to bring through the books, they've had to link to us over many lifetimes. And I thoroughly believe that, because I've got memories of some of those lifetimes. There are many soul groups, most of which are concerned with their own projects as they move back into infinity and back to the angelic host. As to whether there are other soul groups with this same intention, I don't know, because we've never looked outside this bubble of the Joseph soul group. It has taken up most of our consciousness. I would like to think that there are, and I would love to think that there's somebody else speaking on this subject right now in another hall in another country. But we haven't had, and we've looked, we haven't had much evidence of that, have we?
I haven't seen any of it.
We've seen a lot of focus on gurus, which focuses on the individual and saying, follow me. And we're not saying that. We're saying, have a look at the Joseph information. We think you'll find that it resonates with you and that you'll remember who you are because of it. So we see a lot of focus on that. We see a lot of focus on making profit, which we're not interested in doing. The only things that we charge for are the books. And we charge for the books because they cost an arm and a leg to actually print. They've got to be printed, they've got to be delivered to us, they've got to be out to people. And yet, if somebody comes to us, and Jane often receives telephone calls and says, I'm in dire need, or I'm dying, as a lady said the other week, we send them a book. We're not bothered about the cost of it, we send them a book. So it's not about profit. We do it, and I think Tony will agree, I'll shut up and let Tony speak in a minute. We do it because we're moved to do it. Because in conscience, we couldn't do anything else. I mean, we are not in the first flush of youth, are we? Well, you are, but I'm not. But we cannot take our feet off the path because there is so much that's wrong here that has to be put right. And we sometimes think, well, why us? Why not? It's got to be somebody. So I'm sorry I cannot expand on that.
I'd just like to make one other point on what you're saying about cell groups. Joseph says that a soul group is a like-minded angelic beings that get together to create in a particular direction and to expand in a particular direction. And the soul group, our soul group, are communicators. Okay, so that's what they do. And Joseph is the mouthpiece for the books. The Persian gentleman is the mouthpiece for Michael, the joint at the hip. And so that works through. But just something I wanted to get in, and thank you for leading me into that. Joseph and PG are communicators. They are not people's guides. We have had people from around the world who said Joseph has been talking to them and said this, that and the other. It doesn't happen. Joseph and PG are all they want to do is to get the information through. Okay, they're not even our friends. I don't mean that rude. I know it's your friend, but it's not like that. What they do, there's this millions and millions of souls in the communicating soul group. They are the mouthpieces of that, and they communicate. They do not go to other people and say and talk to them in any shape or form. They would not want to do that. It's hard enough getting through. So that's what they're there for. So it is, a soul group is a like-minded group of people.
Family, yeah.
Family.
Yeah.
It's a bit like the WMAs on Earth. Mm-hmm. You know, we are, you can feel it when you get in the meditation on Friday, Tuesday, Monday in America, Thursday in Australia. You can feel it. It's family. It's something we all have in common. We all believe it. No, we don't believe it. We know it. We don't believe it. We're so deep into it. And that's what a soul group is. We are one.
And Joseph's soul group exists to reverse the fall. That's what they want. They want
That's
to
the
save
mission.
bring us out of the fall.
Exactly.
So that's their project. I think there's other ones where they've got sort of scientific ones or different interests. So there's lots of different soul groups. But for Joseph, it's the big one. Get us out hastily.
And as
Does it drop any hints when that's likely to be?
well, that depends on us. It's entirely down to us. But as a coda to what we've been saying, Joseph and the people in his soul group, those wonderful spirits that have spent so long bringing the information through to us, they don't have to do it. They're at a point where, if they wanted to, Joseph describes it as a hatch, as an analogy. Joseph could go through the hatch and resume his angelic memories and his angelic personality, and so could all the other members of the soul group. They don't, because they love us so much. And what we're doing today is love. And what you're doing in the World Meditation Alliance is love. We're doing it because we love people, we love each other, we love this planet, and we have to make things right. PG lives on the edge, doesn't he? He has chosen to, and I've been to his house, not recently, he might have redecorated, I don't know. I've been to his house, and there's a tower that comes up with open archways at the top. There's a circular room. Below that circular room, there is every book that's ever been written, because he loves books. And you think, well, how can you get every book that's ever been written into a circular room? You can, because the walls are flat, but you go to the wall and you pull out whatever book you want. You read it on a lectern, you put it back in, and it disappears. But on the top, you can look out one way towards the higher vibrations and this way towards the earth. And PG could have moved on like Joseph millennia ago, but he won't, because he looks out at the earth and you can feel his sadness at doing that, but also his hope that we get things right, which is why he hasn't moved on. So all those people on our behalf are staying with us, whether we can see them or not, whether we can sense them or not. They're there to encourage us, to love us, to put their arms around us, and to keep us moving forwards.
And to put the hands on our shoulders.
As he says in the
latest
latest,
intention.
in the latest intention.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's us, is it, Tony? What are we doing time-wise? Sorry.
Linda wanted to just recommend
Linda.
your course.
Oh, right.
Your wonderful higher consciousness living course on your website.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. We developed a course over many months. I developed a course to inspire. I've seen people sit in spiritual circles, and some of the circles are fine and some of the circles are not so fine. And I've seen them give up, and I've seen them go down the wrong road because they're being taught in the wrong way. And I was taught in the wrong way at certain stages in my development, and I've experienced all the pitfalls so that you don't have to. And I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if you feel that you have some spiritual ability, and I mean spiritual gifts, psychic gifts or spiritual gifts, that there was a safe way to explore those gifts, to understand what was happening to you, to learn how to meditate effectively, and to develop those gifts for the good of humanity. And that's what the course is about. Now, some people back away from the word course as though it involves textbooks and time and a timetable, and that's not what it's about at all. There are 6 modules, and those modules you take in your own time. You can go back to a module after a month or 2 months or in the next day. But it will take you from not being able to meditate to being able to make conscious communication with your relatives who have moved on, and with members of your soul group, and with higher vibrations and with the God within. So you'll find it on YouTube, and it would be great if you would join up. You don't have to do anything. I'm not going to mark your cards and sign off what you've done on the course. It's not that at all. It's a means of safely expanding your spiritual consciousness and developing your gifts. Thank you, Linda.
It's a brilliant course. Well, I haven't done it all, but what I've done is brilliant. You're doing it too, aren't you?
And it's called, I didn't tell you what it's called, look for Step-by-Step Course in Higher Consciousness Living. Step-by-Step Course in Higher Consciousness Living.
Tony, it's not on the website, the Sanctuary website, then, that course?
No, it's on YouTube.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And you can find it at the bottom. There's an icon at the bottom of our YouTube channel, the Joseph Communications, which will take you to the course.
Thank you.
Michael, thank you so much. It's always such a privilege to listen to Michael.